Welcome to Stop Overthinking, the podcast for overthinkers, people pleasers, and perfectionists who want to feel calm and confident enough to handle whatever life sends your way. I'm your host, Kristen, a women's life and mindset coach, lifelong educator, and recovering perfectionist. Welcome back to the Stop Overthinking podcast. We have another guest episode today. I'm excited to bring you Stephanie Ross. She is a passionate entrepreneur who aims to inspire and motivate wherever she goes. Stephanie launched her first business, Zen and Pow Studio, in 2013 and grew and scaled her studio for 10 years until she realized her true passion was no longer leading fitness and yoga classes. It was leading women in business. A true teacher at heart, Stephanie is now an educator, a community connector for local female small business owners through her company, Small Business Sister Circle, and is a local realtor as well. Above all, Stephanie is a creator, an educator, a lover of all things business, cultivating community, and ultimately helping women design a lifestyle they love. And on a personal note, I have known Stephanie for probably close to 10 years now as both that yoga, Pilates, and fitness instructor. We both shared that passion within our community, and Stephanie has also been a business mentor to me over the past couple of years. So I'm really happy to have her on the podcast. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Kristen. It is an honor to be here and just watch your own journey evolve over the years too. So I love that we've been able to cheer each other on through all the different seasons and stages of life.
Yes, for sure. Stephanie is, as I alluded to, a business mentor and has a company, Small Business Sister Circle. And one of the topics that she talked about at her monthly meetings was this concept of who, not how. And immediately after hearing that, I was like, Steph, I love this idea. Let's talk about it on a podcast. And so it has evolved. That conversation has evolved now over the last couple of months. And it's such a simple idea. Can you tell us more, Steph, about how you became introduced to this idea and how it resonated with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a big podcast junkie, and I kept hearing different podcasters talk about this book called 10x is greater than 2x. So being the natural learner that I am, I dug into that book and tried to really figure out, what does that mean? What does that look like in practice? And it actually led me to the other book by the same author, which is called Who Not How. And that's really how they talk about reaching these 10x goals, is through not always focusing on how to do something yourself, but who you can pull into your vision. Like you said, Kristen, it's so simple in theory. We could probably just wrap it up right now and say, go find your who's and stop thinking about how you're going to do everything yourself. But in practice, it's so much harder. So I've really tried to figure out, what does this look like for me in my own life and professionally and personally, and pull that into small business ownership. And whether you're, a business owner or your career, if you're listening to this podcast, you probably have some of those perfectionist tendencies of doing everything yourself, right? Mm-hmm. How do we find the who's so that we don't have to figure out how to do everything ourselves?
Yes. And I will say, we'll talk more about this concept and how it can apply, but it isn't just in business. I think, that was how it was designed, but I have definitely been reflecting more on how this comes up in my personal life and in coaching as well. Hang in there. I think that you will definitely find some nuggets that will resonate with you today. So I want to start off with this quote, and Stephanie had shared it with our group as well. It's a quote by Ben Hardy. And it says, by doing everything yourself, you miss out on an unfathomable growth that comes by investing in who and utilizing your time and efforts on higher impact activities. And so that's generally the thing. There are so many things we do ourselves simply because we can. And so I love how this idea is more about maximizing and efficiency, but let's take a look at this. And so you started kind of implementing this in your life. What were some of the first things that you did after, like, as you were reading this book or right after it? What did you put into practice?
Yeah, so when I read this book, I was preparing for our annual Sister Circle Summit, which is like our largest event we put on every year. And I simultaneously found out I was expecting my first baby. So I kind of started to feel like, okay, I need all hands on deck. Who can help me carry out this event? So I actually pulled in 3 interns for the semester that really their main goal for the semester was to help with carrying out this event, planning it ahead of time, helping with the setup, the actual flow of the event and the takedown. I also pulled in a event planner for the day to help me with the flow of the event. And I really just had to be more vulnerable and ask for help from so many different people, whether that was some members to help set up. Maybe it was also like we had vendors and sponsors that helped promote it. So really just trying to take any, large goal or vision that you have and breaking it down and getting really creative with who you're asking, because more often than not, people do want to help and bring in their own level of expertise and passions and genius. We just simply have to ask.
We frequently get into these internal thoughts for sure about how am I going to get this done? Or I don't know how I'm going to get this done. I don't know how I'm going to fit it all in. Any of those things with how. And so the whole premise of this is when you have those how kind of questions, to turn it around and think about who. So you mentioned for this event that you turned to some interns and some other vendors, and these are things that in the past you probably have done yourself, or you certainly, could have. What was going through your mind in terms of finding these people when the idea was like, who? What kind of questions, though, like led you to these specific people?
Yeah, I think it really came down to what is going to move the needle on this project. And getting back to like, what do I bring to this event that no one else can? What are my higher level activities or my expertise that I bring that no one else can? And then it was like almost reverse engineering. Okay, what are the things that are not maybe my expertise, or I can do them, but maybe like there's someone better that can bring them in. So that's kind of where I've decided I love event planning, but this event has become so large that it's a whole nother job. So having like an actual event planner helping with the day, and we brought in small business vendors that their expertise is in balloons and design and designing the stage and all of those fun things that I enjoy, but it's not my area of expertise. What I bring to this day is the energy on the stage, being the host, reading the people, having the conversations, and really just showing up and being able to not worry about all the little details behind the scenes. I really try to look at, okay, what do I actually enjoy about this event that I don't want to give up? And that's really hosting and speaking. And then what do I maybe not enjoy, or I can do it, but it's not my area of expertise, and there's someone better that would really bring, next level and would bring their excitement and their passion to it.
Mm-hmm. Taking this idea a step further, because there are lots of things that we could perhaps outsource or delegate. Some of them cost money, right, to pay other people to do these things. And I know for me, for example, editing this podcast, I've gone back and forth where I technically can do it myself. I have done it myself. I have paid other people to do it. And so I know in my mind, I have to go through this cost benefit analysis sort of thing. Can you talk a little bit more about that piece, especially doing it ourselves? We don't always see our own value and what the cost is to us.
100%. And I go back and forth on that on my own podcast too, is I could easily just edit this as soon as I am done recording and it's done. But again, not really my area of expertise. There's someone that could probably do it better, could add more, flair to it or flavor, whatever. So I'm definitely with you on that. In the example that I'm giving, I feel this so much in hiring an actual event planner for next year. It's a big investment. And like I said, I've been doing it myself the last 4 years. I like doing it. I know what I want and what I like, but I simply will not have the time capacity to do that, in the coming season of motherhood and growing and scaling businesses. I think for me, that cost has become an investment in the event itself, and knowing on the front end, okay, I'm building this into my budget so that I can spend time again on those higher level activities, which would be selling more tickets and increasing revenue to pay for those costs or investments is how I like to look at them on the other side. Oftentimes we think, yes, if I just do it, it's free, but it's not free because my time is not free. In fact, I'd argue that our time is the most valuable asset that we have, more than money. We don't have unlimited time. We have very finite amount of time on this earth. We don't know how much we have. So really trying to see your time as valuable. So when you pay and invest in that who, you're getting your time back so that your time can be spent on higher level activities.
Yes. And there is the cost to it. And I will often say in coaching, right, it's discomfort. And it's like you're busy, you're frustrated, you're doing all the things. There's an emotional cost, even often doing it yourself. And then there's the trade-off that there's all discomfort somehow on the other end of maybe paying for it and wondering if it's the right choice. And so it's not always clean cut, but I think in the way I think and try and approach things on this podcast as well is, really like, what do you need? And that may not be one more thing on your plate. Or, for me, sometimes it could be, I'm going to work a couple extra hours or, bring on another coaching client because I would rather invest my time that way. And then I can put that into delegating out some of the tasks at home. Yeah. Maybe it's having a cleaning person. I was talking to a client last night who it is totally stressing her out that she moved and she just does not have the bandwidth right now to finish unpacking and set up her office and do these other things. And I'm like, there are all sorts of organization people out there. You might even just have a friend who really likes to do that. Yes. And she was all up in how am I going to get this done? She doesn't really want to do it. We've talked about this literally for the last 6 coaching sessions. And it's like, who can help you with this? Yes. Who can help you move the needle, whether it's paid or not? And that might be, something you need to decide. But closing your eyes and walking around your house for months because you don't want to deal with this stuff isn't healthy either. So have you found this in your personal life, the who, not how piece as well? Or do you have any examples that you can share even from a personal perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. And to kind of go off of what that example you were sharing is, I've done weeks of decluttering lately with a decluttering coach, Emily Branson, who comes in and helps me literally do the work and have the accountability behind it. And I decluttered an entire floor of my house, and I can't tell you how much easier my life is. I don't have to search for something. I can easily make decisions because I have less stuff to choose from. I think having just something like that alone, and like you said, it doesn't always need to be paid. We probably have people in our life who are looking for tasks and things to do and, would just love to help someone out. Maybe they're retired. Maybe they, are looking to start a business, but they just want to get going with a few trial clients. There's just so many different ways to do it. So decluttering was a huge one for me. I could do it myself. So having the accountability, even just going into having a baby, I'm building a support team. I have a midwife. I want a doula. I have friends that are just willing to, hey, let's get together and go through your registry. I want to help you prepare for your baby and even planning weeks after the baby's there, who can make meals and like just help in the simplest ways to support me in that journey. I think that alone is a huge season of surrendering because yes, it's very easy for me to just say, well, I can do it all myself. I've always done it all myself. But I know that I'm not going to be able to do a lot of things myself. Actually applying who, not how, going into a season of pregnancy and motherhood is perfect timing because I'm really having to put this into place, even planning my maternity leave. We're training up certified coaches within Sister Circle. And that's, it's going to be great for maternity leave, but it's going to be great forever after that too. And I really had to step back because I love speaking and I love teaching. But I'm not an expert on everything. There are other people that have so much passion and experience and expertise to share. So giving them that opportunity to do that. And I cannot continue to grow the business in the capacity, in the vision, and expand it the way that I want to when I'm teaching and leading every single meeting and every single call. Like, it's just not possible. So that's where I think we really need to look at, where am I spending most of my time? Even if I really love doing that, I probably can't do it all the time and expand this vision and this goal to its full potential by always doing the thing myself.
And I just want to expand on that because as I was reflecting on this topic as a whole, I was thinking, where in life do we do this well? And it seems to me, in my experience, that having a child and raising kids, we do pretty well with this. And my kids are 17 and 13 right now. And so it's been a long time since they were little, but those are the times where somebody gets a cough or a sniffle or something comes up and you immediately think, who can I call? Whether that's mom or a friend or your neighbor who's a nurse or whatever it is, you're going who to do this for so many things. Or this behavior issue comes up or these different kind of milestones. We're so connected with who, it seems like when they're little. We do a really good job. I know for me, as the kids have gotten older, I've kind of lost some of those connections for various things. I can really feel that sometimes, with a teenage girl, that I wish I had more who connections to be talking about. And that's just kind of the season in life. And I don't really know people who are at that. So that was one area where I'm like, I could probably do a better job myself making some of those connections more intentionally because I am noticing that that's a little bit of a vacuum. So for any of you who have raised kids, this probably makes sense hearing that. And it's the same idea that you are just trying to figure this out. It's really the community mindset. And you talk a lot about this, about collaboration and community instead of a competition sort of thing. So I mean, certainly from a business, but having a community of who connecting with people. And maybe it's who do I know that might know somebody else about this? It may not be a direct connection. Sometimes I'm like, I don't even know who to ask, but maybe I know these other people. It's kind of like the social media shout out. Who do you know that does whatever this is? And you're reaching out to other people who may have those connections. Just bringing it back again to that kind of business piece, like we had talked about with podcasts. I think for small business owners, you can see this fairly easily. Like we can do lots of low level tasks, whether that's email or minor editing, and you have to look at, like you said, where it moves the needle or where that income potential is. For me, that's doing coaching, not necessarily writing a social media post where the revenue really comes in, or hosting this podcast. It is not the administrative tasks. And that is a hard judgment call to know, but it's like, yes, I can pay somebody else that does this less money than what I would make to do some of these other things, or I can use my brain to generate those other pieces. So many different ways to use this. I wanted to touch on just making connections like we talked about, because I think you do this really well and very intentionally. Can you just talk in general about connecting with people?
Yeah, I think that when I think of all of my big goals that I have that I want to accomplish, they're never accomplished alone. Like I can't do most of them on my own. And even if I tried, one, they're not as fun to do on my own. And two, it's just not expanding it as far as it could. I am always looking to make new connections, and I think that really just comes from getting outside of my comfort zone and going and finding new circles of people, meeting new people. I mean, all the way down to like knowing most of my neighbors around my house. It's crazy to me. When I walk my dog, I talk to probably 3 people every time, and they've become a who. I mean, we have neighbors down the street that love our dogs. So the other day when I was thinking, oh, I'm feeling bad that I'm going to be gone all day. It's a beautiful day. I wish Yuka could be outside to play. So I call my neighbor. Hey, could Yuka come over and play with your dog today? Yes, great. Bring her over. Like as simple as that. So I think just always, as hard as it is to stop and take the time to talk to people. Like I said, when I'm walking through my neighborhood, usually I have my headphones on and listen to a podcast, and I take them off and I take the time to talk to people in the neighborhood, because to me that's really valuable to like know my community, and you just never know who you're going to meet. So it's all the way from going to a networking event for your business and getting outside of the norm of the people that you normally sit with. And I'm trying to always meet at least one new person wherever I go. And that is what makes, some of those social events worth it, because I don't always want to go socialize. There are times where I would rather just sit at home and be alone, but I make it a point to actively engage and try to talk to new people and get to know new connections, because like you said, you just never know who might know the person that you need to know. So who's can be anyone. They could be your spouse, they could be your mom, your dad, your mentor, a coach, they could be an employee, they could be someone you pay to outsource. So there's really all different levels of that. So like I said, when you get creative and think about who's from that perspective of, it might not be directly through the person you're talking to, but making those connections and leaving that impression on people is so important. So I even just wrote down, like, we've talked a lot about building a board of directors and having those like expert people in your life and your mentors and your coaches and the people that you can really go to that are experts on the things or have done some of the things that you're trying to do. So that's a form of a who. We also have just delegating and hiring. So those might be lower level activities that we don't need to necessarily do, or there's someone else's, passion to organize and clean our house, or paying someone to mow your lawn. And then another who that we can kind of incorporate into 2024 is software. Technology could be a who. Could you automate something, your grocery list every week? If you're doing the same, couple of items every week, can you put those on automation? Can you have it delivered? If you're a business owner, there's so many softwares that will help you speed up a lot of systems and processes. So looking at it from that standpoint too. So there's just such a variety of who's that you can pull into your personal and professional life to help you just have to really think more creatively and outside of the box. And it's amazing. I think once you start to look at life in this way of who instead of how am I going to do it all myself, I think it just comes more naturally, and you start to see opportunities where you maybe never would have seen before.
And I know from an office perspective, like in my other job, like roles have really changed in the last couple of years, as I'm sure lots of people who have been through hiring ups and downs in organizations. And there are things that I know I can do, like I can go figure it out and do that. But I've really kind of taken the mindset, like, why do I need to recreate the wheel? I know somebody else within my organization has already done this. This may not be their role anymore, but they could probably give me some pointers, or maybe it's already done. We just need to
Yeah.
like polish it up and reshape something. And so I think regardless of the role that you may have within an organization, if you are in a larger sort of culture, is again that collaboration piece and not being afraid to say, hey, have you done this before? And I know for those of us that are the high achievers who don't want to come across as not having it all together all the time, that can be a hard ask. So it takes some practice, and you can do it with lower level things if you haven't done that before. But I can say that the mental load that I'm able to offload in my mind as I'm trying to like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get this done? How am I going to find out this information? How am I going to package it up? How am I going to get it out to other people? You know, that all of that stuff. And it's like, who's already done this? And they may or may not be receptive to it if this isn't the culture. It doesn't mean that it can't change and that you can shift that. So it's really taking in that collaborative sort of process.
Yeah. And to bounce off of that too, like you said, this idea of collaboration and who instead of how is, I think it's not as like culturally, maybe in the past, like accepted. It's more of like, we'll figure it out. You know, I did, so you can figure it out yourself too. And I think more and more I'm starting to see people really wanting to help others and collaborate. It is that collaboration over competition mindset. And even in real estate, I'm on a real estate team because I don't want to do it all myself. And that in itself is really rare. Like most teams don't operate the way that my team does. Like we actually show property for each other without compensation for the other person. We have a transaction coordinator. We take video of each other's listings. Like we're mentoring and coaching and giving just that practical and or inspirational advice to each other all the time. Like we really do function as a community. And that's just an area of my life that I think it's very unique in that industry. And I love that we do that. And like no matter what industry or career you're in, you can do it different. You don't have to operate like everyone else does. Like you could be the first one to say, I'm going to apply this. And apply this who, not how, see how it works and collaborate more than compete with everyone. And I guarantee you, people are going to notice and it's going to be a positive ripple effect in whatever, area of your life you apply it.
Right. And again, I think there are so many places that you might even be utilizing this that you don't recognize it. I was just thinking, again, kind of the technology piece. Like, I mean, that's what we do when we want to look something up. And often now it comes to maybe somebody's account, TikTok, Instagram, whatever it is, of everything from how can I update my wardrobe to who knows how to switch out this faucet and who can help me train my dog. I mean, there's all of those things. So you are in essence likely doing some of this, but I think the idea is to step it up and maybe be more intentional, especially from a more human and face-to-face aspect as well, because we can bury ourselves on our computer and on our phones all day long. But like you said, having some of those other connections can be really helpful and beneficial then too.
Yeah. Intentionality is everything. You have to apply these practices, this theory intentionally to actually get the benefit from it. And like I said, it's really easy to just go about your day, rushing from place to place, not paying attention to the people around you. And you're never going to make the kind of connections that you could really benefit from when you are going about life that way. So you really do have to slow down and just be more intentional about how you approach your day.
So I have two questions that actually came from Steph earlier, but I'll leave our listeners with two questions as we are closing this up. One of them is, who do you need the most right now in your life? And then what's stopping you from moving forward with connecting with that person? So Thank you so much for this conversation, Steph. If people want to find you, follow you, where do you hang out? Where's the best place to connect with you?
I hang out primarily on Instagram. So my personal is at Stephanie Lee, Lea Ross. You can also find smallbusiness.sister circle, as well as my podcast, which Kristen has been on a couple of times now, at souldrivenwithsteph.podcast.
And I will link those in the show notes, as I always do. Thank you for this conversation. Everybody out there, start thinking about who do you need and what can that connection point look like to move you forward and get out of your overthinking brain. So I will be back with another episode next week. Thank you for listening to the Stop Overthinking podcast with Kristen Odegaard. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with someone else who would benefit from the message. To learn more about working with me and links to social media and free resources, head over to my website, coachwithkristen.com. That's Kristen spelled Kristen. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss future episodes. Have a great week.